Good evening, everyone. We're just beginning the season of Lent. This weekend is the first Sunday of the season, and Lent is now about 4 days old. On Wednesday, I was reminded, as I always am at this time of the year, how the season of Lent is a season which begins with ashes, of course, because on Ash Wednesday we receive ash on our heads, and it ends with water, because at the Easter Vigil, which ends the season of Lent, the Easter water is blessed. So a journey takes place during Lent from the ashes of Ash Wednesday to the water of Easter. Symbolically, of course, that's a journey from death, represented by ash, to life, represented by water, which is the source of all life. And when you come to think of it, the water of Easter is a reminder of what is the source of our spiritual life, our baptism, the baptism that made us into the children of God, that gave us this relationship with God, which our whole life is a working through of. I suppose you could see the season of Lent as the time in the church's year when we really try to bring the meaning of our baptism to life in ourselves, when we try and really live the life of the children of God most perfectly. And what is the symbol of our life as Christians, or what is the summing up of our life as Christians? It's to live according to certain virtues, the theological virtues of faith, hope and charity, to believe in God, to hope in him and in his promises, and to love God and our neighbour as ourselves. Those three things are the summing up of the Christian life. And surely it's not coincidental that there are three ways in which the Church tells us that we ought to try and keep Lent as a special time. Those three ways are prayer, fasting and almsgiving. Because it seems to me that there's a very exact correspondence between faith, hope and charity, and prayer, fasting and almsgiving. If we want to believe in God, then we can do no better than to pray to him. I suppose there are some people who say they have faith and don't really get round to saying very many prayers. I suppose most of us don't say as many prayers as we ought to say. But it's certainly true to say that you cannot pray regularly. You cannot pray carefully. You cannot dedicate yourself to a life of prayer and still be without faith. If you pray, your faith will grow stronger. So prayer and faith go together. The virtue of hope is summed up for us by the business of fasting. And why is that? Well, fasting covers much more than not eating certain things or denying ourselves certain foods at certain times of the day or the year. Fasting is a word that can cover every kind of self-denial. And the reason that speaks to us of hope is because of this, that if you indulge every single whim of yours, if you eat everything you want, if you drink everything you want, if you have every bit of money that you desire, if you spend it on your own pleasures all the time, if you do all those things, well, where is your hope actually? You might say you hope in God, but actually, aren't you hoping in food and drink to deliver you happiness? Aren't you hoping in your bank balance to give you all that you need? So to deny ourselves these material things is to make a little bit of room for us to place our hope where it really belongs, in God, who is the only one who can really make us happy. The final thing is most obvious of all, that almsgiving is to do with charity, to love our neighbour as ourselves, and to love God above all things. Well, we can't do that if we never ever put our hand in our pocket to take anything out and hand it over to someone else without the hope of something exactly the same coming back. That's just buying and selling. To give away to those who are more in need than we are, to give away things that we have in abundance very often, is a very important part of what it is to be a child of God, a Christian person, to put others before ourselves, sometimes even in a little way. So prayer and fasting and almsgiving will bring us faith, hope and charity. And please God, we will this year make a special effort to keep this Lent as a unique time in our year. I think perhaps we've come to the conclusion over the last year that we have sacrificed enough, that we have had enough time to dedicate to things of God. But is it really true? Have we really used the time that we've had over the last year as well as we could? We may have been deprived of certain pleasures and certain activities that we generally like to make the most of, but have we turned our opportunities to God always? Well, during these next few weeks of Lent, let's make a self-conscious effort to place ourselves at God's disposal, to pray to him, to hope in him, and to show our love for him and our neighbour. And please God, when Easter comes for us this year, the life of our baptism, the life of the child of God, will have bubbled up in us and become something really vivid and really the source of our strength and of our spiritual life. God bless you all. Thank you very much.